All right, you guys, Fani Willis and Nathan Wade looked the public dead in the face. And suddenly, y'all remember they had developed, remember the selective amnesia? You heard, I don't recall, I can't remember, see what had happened was, I can't tell you the exact date or time. Like we heard a litany of excuses. But meanwhile, the paperwork was like, bruh, you was on the phone for 8 hours. Like the paperwork is out, you guys. Y'all, I'm telling y'all, the Democrats didn't just try to get Trump. They tried to ruin that man's life, rig the whole narrative against him. They weaponized the justice system in front of the watching world, demonstrating to everyone just how evil and wicked they really are. And now, y'all, we've got 8,000 pages released through an open records litigation that, according to the reports, it shows a highly coordinated effort between Willis's operation, the Biden White House, the DOJ, and the January 6th committee staff. So we're going to talk about the paper trail. This is the lawfare machine that we've been living under for the past couple of years. And I want to talk about why is it that Democrats love using Black women as their brand ambassadors just to do their data work. Nothing else. They don't really see any value when they use these women. They just want them to do the dirty work like an attack dog. And then they leave them holding the bag when it all collapses. Let's get into this. Grace and peace, you guys. Welcome back to Unshakable with April Chapman as we discuss all things social, cultural, political, and theological from a biblical perspective. I'm your host, April Chapman, and welcome to today's show. Before we do so, can you do me one quick favor? Hit the like button, hit subscribe, share this with like one person. I know you know one person out there that still thinks that none of this is really that deep because boo-boo, listen, it is not, it's deeper than deep, it's demonic, and it's documented. So what I want to do, you guys, let's take a look at this clip. Y'all, Senator Greg Dolezal drops the hammer. Let's go.
Mr. President, we now have confirmation for what we always thought was true, and that is that District Attorney Fani Willis coordinated with the White House, the Department of Justice, and the Jan 6 committee in her attempt to commit lawfare against President Trump. After fighting open records requests like her office often does, she finally just yesterday released 8,000 documents to Just the News that reveal close collaboration and coordination with the Biden White House, his Justice Department, and the January 6th Commission. See, we already thought this was true because on November 9th of 2022, President Biden put up the bat signal. He stated that we just have to demonstrate that he, President Trump, will not take power. Well, 6 days later, President Trump announced he was running for re-election. The very next day, one day after President Trump announced, Nathan Wade had an 8-hour meeting with the January 6th Commission. Now, of course, much like all of his prosecution, when he's questioned under oath, Wade can't remember anything, who he met with, what they talked about, where they met. He's got tremendous amnesia, Mr. Wade does. But 2 days after that meeting with January 6th, on November 18th, which is 3 days after President Trump declared he was running for office, Wade had another 8-hour briefing, this one with the White House. Why is November 18th significant? That is the day that Jack Smith was appointed special counsel. That was the same day that Matthew Colangelo resigned from the Department of Justice and left to lead the prosecution against President Trump with Alvin Bragg in New York. And it's the same day that Nathan Wade was on the phone with the White House for 8 hours. We now know what we suspected, that the White House waived the executive privilege for President Trump that has traditionally always been held. We knew they waived it for Congress, but we now know, due to the documents released yesterday, that it was waived for Fani Willis as well. During this process, Mr. President, you're not going to believe this, but the White House contacted Fani Willis and asked her to submit for a competitive $2 million bid. Well, that bid then turned into a no-bid contract grant with Fani Willis, and she was granted $2 million in the midst of her prosecution of President Trump. Mr. President, the fix was in. This was lawfare. This was a coordinated effort between DA Willis, the White House, and the Jan 6 Commission to do what President Biden said, and that is to demonstrate that he will not take power. This Senate has done great work in uncovering this. I'm glad that we finally have the documents to prove what we have always thought was the case. And Mr. President, sometimes the truth takes a minute to come out, but the truth is now out.
Wow.
Mr. President.
All right, so that was a doozy. I wasn't expecting all that. But State Senator Greg Dolezal, who is running for lieutenant governor, by the way, let me summarize for you guys what he is alleging here in these remarks. So the first thing, after they have been resisting a open records request like since Jesus was an infant, right? The DA's office, they released thousands of documents finally tied to an open records request because there's litigation going on now. Like, you basically had to sue them to get it. And Greg Dolezal is saying is that these records show that there was active and deliberate coordination between the White House, the DOJ, the January 6th committee, and Fani Willis's office, which includes Nathan Wade. He outlines the entire timeline that included these 8-hour White House meetings with Nathan Wade on 2 dates. I wrote down November 18th, 2022, plus another meeting with the J6 committee staff. All of this happened within days of each other. And then there's the reporting that Fani Willis's office received $2 million in Department of Justice grant funding during the time that she's actively prosecuting the Trump case. Now listen, y'all don't have to take my word for it, okay? I'm just here reporting and regurgitating what the man just said, but I am telling you, follow the documents and all of the oversight, and it affirms and confirms what we've been saying from the beginning. I don't understand how someone can say, I don't really remember being at that White House meeting. I can't tell you how long I was there. Listen, I've been to the White House. It's pretty memorable. They remembered being there because now there are transcripts and the meeting records now show that, this wasn't a oops, I had forgot. It says they deliberately withheld this information because they knew that something was stinking in Denmark. And now the credibility, as if they needed any help, has just collapsed. It was already gone and out the window. And this explains why they've been stalling for so long. But y'all, this fits the pattern. This is what Democrats do. They will use institutions to do their dirty work. This is all politics. And then if you dare pay attention and start noticing a pattern, they'll just call you a conspiracy theorist. Except here's the problem. Receipts are some tricky things. And I don't know why these brain dead morons didn't think that eventually they were going to get their hands on the documents that demonstrated the paper trail of their dirty deeds. The receipts have now dropped. Okay. And now the public, we're watching like, what are you guys going to do about this? Because this is obvious. It obviously confirms what we've been saying for so long. So let me remind you guys, do we need to take a trip down memory lane? I know some of y'all are new. You may have just started following me, but let me remind you, did we forget that Fani Willis was disqualified by the Georgia Court of Appeals from the Trump case back in 2024 because the whole situation between her and Nathan Wade gave a significant appearance of impropriety. Basically, they're like, y'all riding dirty, and now we know. Her whole relationship with Wade was the scandal that turned the whole prosecution upside down. Just a whole circus was created. So now folks are trying to act like, well, nothing really happened. So I needed to remind you of, yes, something absolutely did happen, and it was happening a lot. And it's not as if we did not know that this was lawfare, aside from the tryst between her and Nathan Wade, but that just made it even worse. This was supposed to be the one case that was supposed to be the case that solidified Fani Willis's career, and it got straight kneecapped, all because the prosecutor, her and then the special prosecutor that she tagged, couldn't get their act together and keep the main thing. She was out here sharing her thought pocket. He's out here busting it down for a real one, and the whole case blows up. But isn't it amazing how the Lord worked all that out? Isn't it amazing? Here's the point. If you can't manage your own ethics, why should anyone trust you to manage the most politically explosive case in the country? Now, grant it, her even agreeing to prosecute a case this thin, in my opinion, it sent a signal that we're not dealing with someone that's very bright. Okay, it demonstrated that she was incompetent and in way over her head, biting off more than she could chew. But the thing about it is selfish ambition, you guys. It will have you feeling yourself, and then you'll fall flat on your face and won't know. If you don't have people around you saying, listen, I know you got your eyes set on AG or something else, but this ain't the way to do it. You don't want these kinds of problems with Vito Corleone, aka Donald John Quavius Trump. Leave this alone, Fani. Leave it alone. Did she listen? No. But the point I wanted to highlight, Democrats, it's always them. Their hands are in all of this foolishness. They've turned the justice system into a full-blown just a clown show. It's weaponized tomfoolery on steroids. And for me, ever since this happened, I was already having second thoughts about the system. But now the whole entire system, I'm giving it many side eyes. I don't trust it because all they do is cook up indictments. And in Trump's case, I don't ever believe that the goal was to win a conviction. I just don't. The goal here was to bankrupt the opponent, smear the opponent, tie Donald Trump in court, dominate the headlines with, he's orange man bad and he's a criminal. Because you notice whenever she talks, she's always calling him a criminal, right? And that he broke the law. That's the point. They wanted to do that to make the public so exhausted that we'd be like, fine, he did it already. But it was an all-out war at the taxpayers' expense. And Democrats are engaged in what I call social lynching, electoral terrorism. And this case was supposed to be the kill shot. This was supposed to be their ace in the hole. Democrats are just a straight abomination to the Lord. And with their unjust and unequal scales, it's so obvious at this point that I know they thought that they were going to win trying to do this. But why is it that the Lord continues to vindicate Trump every time they try to throw something up against him? I'm not saying that Trump is perfect and he's never done anything wrong. What I'm saying is he is not guilty of the things they are accusing him of. And it is so obvious that they were trying to weaponize the judicial system against him. That's what I'm saying. We watched a political machine use government power as a weapon, and that should scare you, because if you're an American citizen and if you say or do something that Democrats don't like, there is nothing stopping them from doing the very same thing to you. Y'all keep forgetting. It wasn't just Donald Trump. He wasn't the only defendant. There were other co-defendants, regular, average, everyday Americans who love this country, whose lives have been ruined and forever changed because of one woman. No, it wasn't just one woman, because of Democrats, their selfish ambition, thinking that they know better than God and that they could just enact some sort of judicial hammer and use it to destroy their enemies just because they don't like them. So as I examine this, we got to talk about the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is why do Black women allow themselves to be used by Democrats? Like, this is the part that everybody tiptoes around. You think it's a coincidence that Fani Willis was the DA that they chose and she just so happens to be Black? I really do believe that they approached her because they knew she would do it. Democrats love putting Black women out front of their mess. They love that because they believe if we put a Black woman as the face of our conspiracy, you won't be able to criticize her because, you know, she's a Black woman. She can do no wrong. And you sure can't question her motives because that would make you a misogynist. You hate women. And you can't ask or expect transparency because now you're just a racist. No, sometimes it's just accountability, and these chicks are not that special. They're just evil and wicked. And I'm saying that as a Black woman. Yes, I am saying, and I want us to think about, when are we going to stop volunteering to be the party's human riot shield and then get some self-respect and a moral compass? Because we don't have to do this. Now, I understand that 92% of Black women identify as Democrats, and they look to this political sphere as a career move because they think that if they just do what Massa says, he's going to reward you with something big. But the Democrat playbook is very simple and it's never changed. They put a Black woman in the frame, make everybody believe that any sort of criticism against her is hatred, but then they'll use her as cover for their real agenda. And then when it all blows up, where are they? Oh, they're going to disappear like a fart in the wind. That's what they're going to do. And since all of your Democrat Black women, since all of y'all are so strong and independent, then why can't you be strong enough to say, I'm not going to allow myself to be used to do the political dirty work with all of these legal consequences? Because at the end of the day, the machine, we already know this, it is going to protect itself and it's going to leave you out there high and dry. So I'll tell you what I would like to see. So many people ask, well, is anything going to come of this? Like, we see this happen, we get all excited, and we're like, yeah, stick it to them. But I want to see some results. I want to see some action. I am sick and tired of bombshell. This comes out. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it. And then nothing happens. My question is, if open records produced this much already, the Georgia lawmakers, they need to be pursuing. I need to see a full timeline of the contacts. Who called who, when, where, what, and why. I want to see who authorized all of this coordination. Because there's a snake at the top of all of this. What information was exchanged? What were they talking about? Who said what? Who shot John? I want to know. What policies were violated? Who signed off on the grant application? And from a compliance perspective, basically, at the end of the day, I want to know, is somebody going to jail or no? That's what I want to know. It's very simple and binary for me. Because what this is criminal. This is the actual RICO scandal. This is the RICO case. And do not forget that DOJ, the grant funding, if that money flowed into Fani Willis's office while she was prosecuting Donald Trump, then the oversight committee absolutely needs to verify what program did that money come from? How was it awarded? Was it competitively awarded? Who else applied for it? What was the scope of the deliverables? Like, what was she supposed to do to get that money? Was there a conflict of interest? I need to know. And my question, how is this woman still barred in the state of Georgia? Like, when are we going to see some sort of disciplinary action coming? Because she already got disqualified off the case. So that tells you that the courts believed that her conduct crossed the lines beyond appearance. So what are they going to do about it? Because I am tired of seeing when public offices, like Fani Willis's office, has been fighting transparency so hard. They've been fighting it like it's the devil. That is a telltale sign that usually the devil lives there. And that's where you need to be looking. This woman should have been penalized for taking this long to produce those records. But my message, more importantly, is to the Georgia voters, especially in Fulton County. Y'all ain't gonna like this, but this is your fault. All of this is you. This all you, pimping. Because you rewarded this lawfare at the ballot box when you re-elected that orangutan. And you really need to examine yourself. She's a reflection of you. She's gutter, you're gutter. She's dishonest and corrupt, that's you. Because if voters keep rewarding political prosecution over the things that matter, and then don't demand some sort of ethical honesty from their politicians and the people that they elect to represent them, then all that's going to do, you're going to see more corrupt politicians, and they're going to choose corruption because at that point, it's become an obvious career path and they get rewarded for the corruption. So I'm going to end it here. I've gone off long enough, went on my little rant. Hope you enjoyed it. But you guys, we're watching a party that they can't even win debates on merit. They can't. And we darn for sure know that they cannot win elections with their trash ideas. So they are cheating. And when they find out that they've cheated and you're on to them for that, they come up with something else. So they try to win by manipulating the institutions. That's what we saw here. But scripture tells us nothing that's hidden, right, that will not be made manifest. There ain't nothing in the dark that ain't gonna come to the light eventually. Sometimes, like Senator Dolezal said, it takes a minute for the truth. Sometimes. But it comes out eventually. If it don't come out in the wash, it comes out in the rinse. So here's what I need from you. What do you guys think? Like, do you think this was a coordinated lawfare effort? Or did this follow the normal process? And there's nothing to see here. Like, which side of that argument do you land on? Please remember, hit like, share, subscribe, share this episode. And especially, if you are a Black woman and you are watching me, stop letting these political parties rent your image to run their agenda, particularly if it's godless. Because at the end of the day, you and you alone are going to have to give an account for what you do. And they sure will act like in the end that they don't even know you. So until next time, you guys, stand firm, stay bold, and above all else, stay unshakable. Grace and peace.